The genetics didn't lie, she couldn't carry a child. The doctors had explained it in cold, clinical terms, chromosomes and percentages, probabilities that added up to impossible. But to her family, to the organization that had raised her, it was simpler than that. She was broken, defective, a liability wrapped in brown skin they had grown tired of protecting. So they gave her away. The room smelled like expensive cologne and old wood. Mahogany panels lined the walls, absorbing sound, absorbing hope. She stood in the center, hands clasped in front of her, spine straight despite everything screaming at her to run. 3 men flanked her, soldiers from her own family's crew, men who used to nod respectfully when she passed. Now they wouldn't meet her eyes. The man behind the desk hadn't moved since she entered. Kang Daehan, the name alone made grown men reconsider their life choices. Head of the most ruthless Korean syndicate on the West Coast, a man who had built his empire on calculated violence and unwavering control. He sat perfectly still, hands folded on the polished surface, face unreadable as stone. One of her escorts cleared his throat. "She's yours now." "Compensation for the shipment we lost." He forced a laugh that died quickly. "Consider it a gesture of goodwill." Goodwill, the word tasted like poison. They were handing her over like damaged merchandise, like she was worth less than the drugs that had been seized last month. Her body had always been the problem. Too dark for some rooms, too curvy for others, too visible, too much, too wrong, and now too barren to be useful. Daehan's eyes lifted slowly, not to the men, to her. The weight of his gaze felt physical, like hands pressing against her chest. She had heard stories about this man. How he had once made an example of a rival by destroying everything the man loved before finally killing him. How he negotiated in whispers because he never needed to shout. How he viewed mercy as a currency he rarely spent. "She can't even give you heirs," another voice added quickly, desperately. Doctors confirmed it. "We thought, given the circumstances, she might serve some other purpose." The air changed, shifted, thickened. Daehan tilted his head slightly. "Get out." The words were soft, deadly soft. "But we should explain now." They scattered like roaches when the light hits. The door closed with a final, terrible click. She was alone with him. Her heart hammered so violently she wondered if he could hear it. This was the moment everyone had warned her about, the moment her worthlessness would be confirmed in the worst possible way. He stood, 6 feet of controlled power, tailored suit fitting him like armor. She instinctively stepped back. "What did they tell you?" His Korean accent wrapped around the English words, precise and deliberate. She swallowed. "That I failed them." "Failed how?" "I can't have children. I'm infertile." The words felt like stones leaving her mouth. Silence stretched between them, sharp and surgical. Then he did something completely unexpected. He laughed. Not cruelly but bitterly, like he'd just heard the punchline to a joke the universe had been telling at both their expenses. "They used you because you were convenient," he said, moving toward the window. "Easy to discard, easy to blame." She stared at him, confusion cutting through her fear. "I don't understand." "You weren't given to me as compensation," he continued, not turning around. "You were given to me because they believe I'm the kind of man who would accept a human being as payment for product." Her breath caught. "They thought wrong." He turned then, and something in his expression made her knees weak. Not cruelty, not hunger, something almost like recognition. "Leave if you want," he said quietly. "The door isn't locked. I don't keep people who don't choose to stay." She didn't move, couldn't. Years of conditioning screamed that this was a trap, that safety was an illusion, that men like him didn't offer freedom. "Or stay," he amended. "You won't be harmed here, you won't be used. You won't be treated like damaged goods." "Why?" The word barely made it past her lips. His answer was simple, devastating. "Because what they did to you was wrong." The apartment they gave her was on the 3rd floor, clean sheets, fresh flowers on the dresser, a lock on the inside of the door. She sat on the edge of the bed for an hour, just staring at her hands, trying to reconcile this reality with everything she knew about the world. Down the hall in his private office, Daehan stood at the window, jaw tight. The family that sent her had made a critical error. They had shown him exactly who they were. Men who measured worth in wombs and bloodlines, who thought power meant the right to discard people like trash. He had built his organization on ruthlessness, yes, but ruthlessness with rules. With honor buried so deep most people forgot it existed, what he had just been handed wasn't compensation, it was a mirror. And he didn't like what he saw reflected in the kind of man they assumed him to be. By morning the compound was whispering, words spread like smoke through the corridors, the woman, the gift. The boss's reaction, no one knew quite what to make of it. She felt the shift immediately, how conversations stopped when she entered a room. How eyes tracked her movement with uncertainty rather than contempt. The dining hall was vast, all dark wood and hanging light fixtures that cast shadows like secrets. She took a seat at the far end of the long table, making herself small, occupying as little space as possible. Old habits. Daehan entered without announcement, the room transformed instantly. Spine straightened, breathing regulated. He took his seat at the head of the table, movements economical, precise. His eyes found hers briefly, just long enough to acknowledge her existence. That alone sent ripples through the room. One of his lieutenants spoke carefully. The other families are asking questions. Daehan continued eating. They always do, about her specifically. They want to know if this is temporary. The fork in his hand paused. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, absolute. She is under my protection, someone inhaled sharply. Another shifted in their seat. Protection wasn't a word thrown around casually in their world. It meant something. It meant everything. She kept her eyes on her plate, pulse racing. Protection was for assets, for blood, for power, not for broken girls given away like bad debt. Later, she found herself in the garden. No one had told her she couldn't go outside. No one had stopped her. The freedom felt more terrifying than chains. He was there, near the koi pond, feeding the fish with slow, methodical movements. She watched him for a moment before speaking. You don't seem like a monster. He didn't turn. Monsters rarely do, they just act like them. She moved closer, careful, testing the boundaries of this strange new reality. Why keep me here? Because I don't accept gifts that insult both of us. They said I embarrassed them. They embarrassed themselves. He finally looked at her. You walked into my home expecting to die and didn't once beg for mercy. That's not weakness. Her throat tightened. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. You survived them. That takes more strength than they'll ever possess. She lowered her gaze. Begging never saved me before. Something flickered across his face. He gestured to a stone bench. Sit, she obeyed, and he joined her, maintaining careful distance. You should understand something, he said. I have rules. No one in this house touches you without permission. No one speaks to you with disrespect. No one treats you as anything less than human. And if they do, they answer to me. She believed him, not because he was kind, but because he was precise. Men like him didn't make empty promises. But don't misunderstand, he continued. This isn't charity. Then what is it? Balance. The world you came from believes power is humiliation. I believe power is control, and I control what happens in my house. She studied his profile, strong jaw, dark eyes that revealed nothing and everything. What do you want from me? Nothing you aren't willing to give. The answer should have comforted her. Instead, it terrified her. Because nothing meant no purpose, no value, no reason to keep her safe. And in her experience, people without purpose became disposable. He must have seen it in her face. You're thinking too much like them, he said quietly. Wondering what you're worth, what you can offer, how to make yourself useful enough to survive. Isn't that how this works? Not here. He stood, brushing invisible dust from his slacks. Here you exist because you exist. The rest is up to you. The weeks that followed were strange, disorienting. She had expected violence, degradation, the fulfillment of every nightmare. Instead, she got routine, meals at regular times, space to think, people who nodded when she passed instead of looking through her. Daehan kept his distance, but she felt his presence everywhere. In the way guards straightened when she walked by, in the careful respect staff showed her, in the unspoken rule that seemed to hover over her like a shield, she started exploring. The library first, then the gardens, eventually the training rooms where his men practiced. She watched them spar, fascinated by the discipline, the control. One of them noticed her and bowed slightly. She nearly fell over in shock. "You look surprised," a voice said behind her. She turned. Daehan in casual clothes for once, hair slightly mussed. "More human than monster." "I am," she admitted. "They're treating me like I matter." "You do, because you said so, because you're here." She shook her head. "That's not how the world works. It's how my world works." He moved to stand beside her, watching his men train. "The family that gave you to me made a mistake. They showed me what kind of men they are. Men who measure human worth in biological function. Men who think power means the right to discard people. And you're different. I'm worse in many ways," he said honestly. "I've done things that would horrify you, but I have lines." "And they crossed one." She turned to face him fully. "You started a war over me." It wasn't a question. She'd heard the whispers, seen the increased activity, felt the tension building like a storm. "I corrected an insult," he replied. "There's a difference. People are dying. People were always going to die. Now they're dying for a reason that matters." She didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process being the reason, being the line someone finally wouldn't cross. "I never asked for this," she whispered. "I know, that's exactly why you deserve it." The war escalated. Alliances fractured, old families chose sides. The underworld that had operated on unspoken rules for decades suddenly had to reckon with a new truth. Kang Daehan had declared a woman untouchable. And anyone who disagreed could test that declaration at their own risk. She tried to leave once, packed a bag, made it to the front gate. He found her there, not angry, just curious. "Where will you go?" he asked. "Anywhere but here." "I'm causing too much trouble." "You're not causing anything." "They are, by refusing to accept that their actions have consequences. People are dying because of me. People are dying because they thought human beings could be traded like commodities. Don't take ownership of their sins." She gripped her bag tighter. "You could end this, send me away, give me back." "I could," he agreed. "But I won't." "Why?" He stepped closer, and for the first time since that first night, she saw something raw in his expression, something vulnerable. "Because the moment I do, I become the man they thought I was, and I've spent my entire life building something more than that." Her bag slipped from her fingers. "This is insane." "Yes. But so is giving away human beings, so is measuring worth in fertility, so is every rule they've ever made to justify cruelty." He picked up her bag, handed it back to her. "The gate is open. It always will be. Stay or go, but know that if you go, it's your choice, not theirs." She took the bag, stood there for a long moment, then she turned and walked back inside. He followed at a distance, and if he smiled, she didn't see it. The summit was called 3 months later. Neutral ground, old hotel downtown, every major family represented. They wanted answers. Explanations. Most of all, they wanted Daehan to remember his place in the hierarchy. The invitation came on expensive cardstock. She read it twice, then found him in his office. "They want me there," she said quietly. He was reviewing documents, didn't look up. "They want leverage. They think I'm yours, you're not anyone's." He set down his pen. "But they don't understand that concept." She folded the invitation carefully. "If I don't go, this never ends. It ends when I say it ends." "No," she met his eyes. "It ends when I say it does." That got his attention. He studied her, reassessing. "They think you own me," she continued. "They think I'm your weakness. Let them believe it. You could be killed. So could you, every day." She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small flash drive. "I've been doing research. Your accountant helped. I know where the bodies are buried, metaphorically and literally." His expression shifted. "What did you do?" "I learned from you. Power is control. Information is control. I control the narrative now." He stood slowly. "They will never let you walk out of that room. They won't have to. I'll already be gone." The plan was brutal in its simplicity. She would attend. She would listen. She would let them think she was afraid. And when they showed their hand, when they revealed exactly who they were, she would burn it all down. "You taught them rules," she said softly. "I'll teach them consequences." The summit was held in a renovated theater, all burgundy velvet and gold trim, trying to hide decades of decay. Men filled the balcony seats, watching like it was a show. In a way it was. She entered alone. The whispers started immediately. "That's her, the broken one. Can't believe he's keeping her." She took her seat at the center table, spine straight, hands folded, waiting. The head of her former family spoke first, false warmth dripping from every word. "You've caused quite a disruption, Amara." She let them use her name, let them think familiarity meant power. "I survived one," she replied evenly. A few chuckles, testing her, probing for weakness. "You're brave," another man said. "Or incredibly foolish." Those words often confuse men who rely on fear. The room stiffened. They circled her with words, with veiled threats disguised as concern, with offers that sounded like safety but smelled like chains. "Leave him and we'll protect you. Stay quiet and we'll forgive the trouble you've caused. Choose him or choose peace." She listened to all of it, let them talk themselves into corners. Let them reveal exactly what they thought power looked like. Finally, the eldest patriarch leaned forward. "Choose, Amara, him or the city, war or peace, life or death." She stood slowly. Every eye tracked her movement. "I already chose," she said. She placed the flash drive on the table. "But you misunderstood what I was choosing." "What's this?" someone demanded. "Truth. Every dirty secret, every buried crime, every alliance built on blood money and broken promises. 30 years of evidence. All time-stamped, verified, and currently being uploaded to servers across 3 continents. The room exploded, shouting, accusations. Men pointing fingers at each other, alliances fracturing in real time. "You invited me here because you thought I was his weakness," she said, voice cutting through the chaos. "You were right. Weakness exposes rot, and you're all rotting." She turned and walked out. No one stopped her. They were too busy destroying each other. Daehan found her on the rooftop at dawn. The city sprawled below them, sirens wailing as arrests rolled through neighborhoods like dominoes. "It's done," she said. He looked at her like she'd rewritten the laws of physics. "You destroyed them." "No, they destroyed themselves. I just stopped protecting their secrets." "You could have disappeared. Started over somewhere they'd never find you." "So could you," she countered. "You didn't." They stood in silence, watching smoke rise from a city learning new rules. "The underworld thought the choice would break me," she said quietly. "Instead, it freed us both." He stepped closer, and for the first time she let him. "What now?" "Now," she smiled, small and real. "Now we figure out who we are when we're not defined by what we survived." The announcement came 3 days later. Not through violence or threats, through a press release that sent shockwaves through every criminal organization on the coast. Kang Daehan was stepping down, dissolving his syndicate. Assets liquidated, businesses legitimized, soldiers released from their oaths. The empire he'd built over 2 decades was being systematically dismantled. His lieutenants gathered in the main hall, confusion turning to anger. "You're giving up everything," one of them said. "I'm choosing what matters," Daehan replied calmly. "For her, for the truth." That power built on fear isn't power at all. Word spread faster than any threat ever had. The monster was surrendering, rivals scrambled to fill the void, allies panicked. But there was nothing to take. He'd already moved everything, protected everyone, closed every door behind him. He wasn't retreating, he was erasing the battlefield. Amara watched it unfold from the balcony of their new apartment. Smaller, normal, hers. "What are we doing?" she asked when he joined her. "Living," he said simply. "Choosing it instead of surviving it. They'll say you were weak. They already do, let them." She turned to face him. "Why me, really?" he answered without hesitation. "Because you walked into hell expecting to die and chose to live without asking anyone's permission. Because you saw a monster and decided to see a man instead. Because you're stronger than anyone who ever tried to break you." Tears filled her eyes. "They tried to erase me. They failed spectacularly." She smiled through the tears. "You shocked them." "No," he said. "You did. I just finally understood what real power looks like." The underworld had expected a monster to claim his prize. Instead, they watched a king lay down his crown for a woman they deemed worthless. And in doing so, he shattered the most dangerous lie they'd ever believed, that power belongs only to those who inspire fear. Sometimes the greatest shock is this simple. The woman they tried to punish didn't just survive, she ended an empire, and the monster who was supposed to destroy her chose to stand beside her instead, not as a ruler, not as a possession. But as a man who finally understood that the strongest thing you can do is choose love over fear, humanity over power, and a future over a throne built on bones. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. We've got more incredible stories coming your way. Comment below and let us know what you think happened next for Amara and Daehan. See you in the next one.